Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we're going to start a duet series today. The name of the duet series is called The Savage Hope. It's by CM Wick, and book one is called His Trust. We meet Mia, and she's working at a securities company. It was founded by a man named Colin Stark. He's ex-military, all this type of great stuff. So she is underneath the executive assistant. She's the assistant to the assistant. So to get this job, what she had to do was basically dumb down her resume. The girl has like an undergraduate and a master's, but she needed a job. And so she had to she omitted those things. And it worked. She got the job. So Janice, who's the executive assistant, she tells Mia, Mr. Stark wants to see you. And so she's trying to think, like, damn, like, what did I not do? Like, she's, trying to run through the day of making sure she got everything done. And she goes, I've done everything. It has to have something to do with my resume. So she goes into the office. He asks her, do you like working here? And she says, yes. And he says, if you do, go stand in the corner. So, of course, at first she's like, wait a minute, like, what kind of mind game, is he trying to play here? And so she stalls. And he says, I don't like liars, so I'm going to ask you again. If you like working here, you're going to go need to stand in the corner. And then he says, now, Mia. Now, let me just say this. I want to understand, how is it that a company that literally specializes in security could let someone work there and y'all didn't know that she had I'm just saying, like, this is your business. Like, background checks. You know what I mean? You're going to have the best background checks done, which means you all would have pulled this crap up the minute you put her stuff in the system. I'm a little like, come on, because she's been working there for a few months. And it's like, it's just now taking you. I don't know. I just find that weird. And it doesn't even have to be about them being like, oh my gosh, super attractive. It's just, if they have a quality that does it for you, then you're going to get turned on pretty quickly. That's just kind of how that works. So he winds up saying to her that you might be telling the truth. And then he says, drop your skirt. Now, I'm sorry, even if you are attracted to your boss, okay, how you just gonna tell me to drop my skirt? I'm just saying. So then we switch to Colin's POV. I love when they switch the back and forth. I love it. And we find out that he's been paying attention to her from day one. He could tell she had a sharp mind. He also noticed how she went from wearing kind of frumpy clothes to like a bit more skin, right? Skirts got a little tighter, got a little higher, blouses showing a little bit more cleavage. She was wearing flats in the beginning, then she started wearing heels, So he's thinking, who is she dressing up for? So in his head, it's got to be someone that's probably working here. Maybe she's dating somebody or she likes somebody. So he puts his second in command, Trent, on her to do a workup. And this is how he finds out about the fact that she has this degree and everything. Again, why everybody didn't have a full you know what I mean? Everyone should have had a detailed file like that. I'm just saying. But anyway, I digress. So he goes over to her and she's taking her skirt off and he starts feeling around and there's like this interrogation while he's fingering her. It was a heck of a scene to read. But That's a form of interrogation to get the truth out of someone. So while you're bringing them to that pleasure, it's like at that moment they'll say, I don't know. I kind of look at it too. Anything to, probably get to that place, that climax. Or, I mean, I'm sure it really does work where, no, you're going to get the truth because in that moment, they're fully exposed. So we're going to go with B. So he's saying like all this different stuff to her, um, asking why did they send you here, all this kind of stuff. And she keeps saying, it's me. I'm not here to do anything, I'm just working. And so now his dick is hard and now he wants to fuck. And so he basically tells her, Ed's about to get some pleasure. Like, well, damn. Her trying to get questions out of her in between. He asked her how many lovers she's had, and she says 3. He says, were they hookups or were they, relationships? She says relationships. So he wants to know, why did the last one end? And if not, or if she's currently in a relationship. And she's like, no. She's like, she's not in relationships. And then she says, well, why do all relationships end? And then he winds up making her squirt. And he asked her, has she ever done that before? She hadn't. And now, of course, he's ready to go into fuck mode. So he tells her to go to the desk. But before that, he was like spanking her on her ass as well, which kept making her wetter and wetter, which shocked her because that's not normally her thing. So then she goes and she's on his desk. So she bends over. He reaches into a little compartment, gets a condom, gold wrapper. I'm like, yay, he's well endowed. They have a nice hard fuck. Afterward, he goes to the room to straighten up. And then he goes in the corner, gets her stuff, brings it to her, and tells her, you can't walk out of here looking like this. You got to go to the bathroom and straighten up. The first thought she had is like, oh, basically she's thinking like, oh, he just wants to get rid of me. But girl, you just been fucked. Like, you're gonna look like that with your hair crazy and stuff. Like, you can't walk out. Like, we can't forget this is your boss you fucking with. So she goes in the bathroom, straightens up, she comes out, and she's thinking, you know what, I just need to walk straight out and never come back. He hands her an envelope. She can tell it's filled with money, and that makes her feel like so much of a whore, right? So she tries to leave without taking the envelope, and he's like, why aren't you taking the envelope? And she's just kind of like, I'd rather not feel any more of a whore than what you've already just made me feel like. Well, he tells her, no, Janice is retiring, and there's a party that needs to be thrown for her, as well as you're going to be taking over her duties. Like, you're going to be executive assistant. That's an advance on your salary so you can up your wardrobe because you're going to be traveling with me wherever I go. And he tells her, if you were lying to me, like, basically when he was saying, are you working for someone else and all that type of stuff, he's like, you better tell me now. He's like, because in all honesty, if you do try and run away, because that's what I think he thought too, like when she came out, she was just trying to leave, like she's trying to run. He told her, like, there's nowhere on earth you would go that I couldn't find you. I'm like, well, damn. We switch back to Colin. He's having a conversation with his second in command, Trent, and we find out a little more information. So Janice is being forced to retire. They ran a background on her, apparently because her grandson moved into her spare room. So they found out that he's a felon, and I guess she didn't, let them know. I'm quite sure, especially a security company, that's something you've got to let them know if you're, there's a felon living. So she didn't notify them of that. So instead of firing her, they decided, okay, we're just going to force you to retire, give you a good compensation. Um, I said, well, that's good. She's getting a great severance package, so she'll be all right. So Trent, of course, was like, I need more money if you want me to dig more, if you want more information. And he's just kind of like, hold off on it. He's already gotten some information um, about Mia. And so I think at this point, he's like, let me see what I can get out of her. Like, let's not do a full workup. They already know a good amount. Her father died when she was 4. Her mother remarried to an asshole. Um, the mother died after she graduated from high school. There doesn't seem to be a relationship with the stepfather at all. She went to a community college for 2 years before going to state. She's been doing everything on her own. Like, there's no support system. Um, Trent feels like if I keep digging, I'm going to find more. Um, but I think he wants at this point, he's interested in her, right? He wants her, but also he wants to get the information out of her and not have Trent find it. So then Trent finds out that, not Trent, I'm sorry. Trent tells him that, about some plans with expanding to the Middle East. This is not something Colin wants to do, um, but Trent has been trying to convince him to do it for a while now. And he just says, I'm just not going to make any promises as far as like if I'm willing to go look into it or not. Apparently, they have some stuff going on in Russia and other countries as well, but this is not necessarily a place he wants to go to, but he's not going to tell him no. He's not going to tell him yes either. It's been about 3 days since the situation happened in the office, the fuck session. Um, and he's gone completely back to normal how he was before. She can't read anything from him. He's giving her nothing. She gets a box from a service, and it's a beautiful gown. And there's a message that says, I'm not done questioning you. So apparently they're going on a trip somewhere on a PJ, and he advised her of where they were going. And she, of course, is taking a bath. She's thinking about that night, makes herself come. And she knows she's screwed because she can't stop thinking about him, and she's trying to do the whole wish it never, act like it never happened type of thing. That shit's not gonna work. She eventually finds out they're gonna go to Dubai, and she, of course, has been given a list of everything you can and cannot wear. She gets on the PJ. He's searching through her luggage. She's like, I know what I can and can't bring. Like, I checked the list you gave me. He tells her, I'm doing my own investigation. So then the stewardess comes up and asks her, if there's anything she wants to drink. She's like, just some water. They leave, they come back. She's sitting on the couch. He's sitting next to her. She tried to scoot over. He grabs her leg. So she has to sit next to him. So then after the stewardess gave her a water, he has the espresso. He tells her to take her panties off. She, of course, is looking at him like, what? And he's like, my crew is under strict instructions. So they know how this works. Basically, nobody's coming back here. So she stalls, and he tells her, that's not going to work. Obedience isn't an option. So she wants to take her panties off. And then, of course, he starts touching her pussy. Telling her, like, describe what you see. She's feeling embarrassed. And I'm like, this is all kind of fucked up. Because, I mean, like, this girl, she could have a lawsuit galore with this shit. Like, it is not, listen, if you find out I was lying on my resume, you let me go. The minute you basically trying to, like, even though he's not telling her you gotta fuck me, it's still that feeling of like you gotta fuck him because you need this job. I mean, in this situation, she does want him, and that's why she's doing it. Because the truth is, she could have ran out, right? and she still would have had a case because you still shouldn't ask me to drop my fucking skirt, right? So she still would have had some, but it's just like, God damn, this is all kind of fucked up. So I don't like how he's going about it. I get the whole he's a dominant, but listen, that shit works when you have someone that is down with it, right? Um, this just feels so much like it's like they're trying to say like, she does like him, she is attracted to him, and so her body's getting wet for him, but at the same time it's like he needs to try a better method because he's coming off all kind of predatory. But anyway, I digressed. So he's fingering her. He tells her that there's a bed on the plane in a private room, and he tells her he has all these different sex toys for all parts of her body. He tells her he's going to take her in every hole, and when he's not taking her in her holes, he's going to plug them up because she is his. He literally says to her, "You're mine." So then he tells her to get on her knees. She does it with no problem because this is a 15-hour flight, and in her mind, she's like, she wants to spend the next 5 sucking him off. Now, see, again, if you want to do it, that's great, right? Because you're into it. So we get a little backdrop about her. We find out that former lovers have said crappy shit to her. The last boyfriend, Glenn, told her fat girls always give the best head. And so, again, here we go with that low self confidence. She's sucking him off, and it's like he can read her thoughts. He's like saying to her, you know, he winds up telling her, like, okay, this is like too much, because she's giving him pleasure, but I don't know, and maybe he can see that, like, okay, you sucking me off, and maybe you, like, some people, you enjoy it. It can be very enjoyable to do that, and some people really like it. But then maybe he saw a look come across her face where it was like, okay, she's enjoying this, but is it because she really enjoys it, or is it because this is all she thinks she's good at? Now, I don't. He's looking at her like she's like she likes doing this too much, you know, and I guess there's a look that he saw come across her face that stopped him from letting her suck him off. He zips his pants up. He puts her panties on the couch. He leaves for 10 minutes, goes to the bathroom, and then when he comes out, gets his suitcase or his briefcase, disappears in the office. She doesn't see him again until they're landing in Dubai. So then we switch back to Colin. They made it to Dubai. He did want to finish with her, but he saw an innocence and it kind of freaked him out, and that's why he stopped. Um, I don't know. I think it's probably also because she made a comment that something about her exes, like they always told her she excelled in this one place. So I think that's probably what bothered him as well. So he's going to meet these heads, and he really doesn't want to do it, but he's going to go. He took this trip so that he could have time with her. It was an excuse to bring his executive assistant. That's the only right reason why he took this trip. I'm like, that is so freaking awful. So they're in the limo. Her face is against the window. He tells her, you can't do that here. Like, it's a safety issue, Won't say too much of anything else to her. They have a suite, but it's like adjoining but separate, all this type of stuff. Um, he set up like a command center in one of them, another place. It's a huge suite. And he wants to explore what he's feeling with her, but at the same time, it's still a work trip, so he's still got to work. She goes to her room, tries to take a nap, doesn't work. She's given an itinerary. She's got to go to some speaking events and listen. She gets to the second one and she runs into her ex boyfriend, Glenn. He's all like, oh my gosh, how you doing? You look great, giving all these compliments, and this is not something he normally does. This is very foreign to her. He's also trying to butter her up. He's trying to find out why she's there. And so she's not having a conversation with him. He's basically talking to himself. So then he touches her arm, and Colin walks up, and Glenn makes this comment before Colin gets to him, why is he here? And so Colin says something slick, walks away with her, takes her to the elevator, asks her who is that, and she says just a guy she went to school with. They had a few classes together. And I'm like, now why the hell are you lying? Why are you lying about something that can be found out, checked out so quickly? Not that you need to be lying anyway, but I'm just saying this does not make sense because you already know this dude is going to find out who this is. So why not just go ahead and tell him? You've already omitted shit from your resume, so there's a trust issue already, right? So it's like, why not just go ahead and tell him who the fuck that is? Well, the reason she doesn't tell him is because she's afraid that if she says it's her ex-boyfriend, he's going to fire her on the spot because it looks suspicious. And she's going to wind up having to book a plane ticket home. It's going to max out her credit cards. And so she's got 1,000 thoughts running through her mind. So that's her reasoning for not revealing the truth. He says to her, baby, I'll see you later. She's looking at him kind of crazy because he said baby, because he gives her a lot of terms of endearment. It just depends on the person because some people give terms of endearment and they don't mean anything. So you just have to kind of look at the person who's saying it. He seems to be saying this to her, but again, she doesn't. There's so much stuff in between them that's going on of why I can understand why she doesn't know if this is legit or not with him saying that is because he feels that comfort level to say it with her because he wants to say it to her, or are they just words? I get why she's a little back and forth about that because normal people don't just say certain things. That's not a normal thing to do. Normally people say that because they mean it, but listen, everybody's different, so she's trying to figure it out. um she already knows he's going to do a whole workup on the dude and find out everything. So now she's panicking about that. We switch back to Colin. He's on his way to a meeting with Omar, who we find out is his third son in line to the throne. So he went to Cambridge, Oxford. He's educated, highly educated. He doesn't have any guards though. So this immediately has Colin looking like, okay, something's going on. This isn't normal for him not have bodyguards. And then the Omar guy says, my brother's trying to kill me. And so the guards that he had, he sent away because he knew they were all under his brother's control. Um, this is the reason why he wanted to meet with Colin. So Colin's like, okay, bet. When do you need him? He's like, now. Thankfully, he bought a bunch of men with him as well, so he's able to like get the guys banking information, get these guys working, right? So before he walked in there, though, he did have a lot of thoughts about Mia. Um, he, of course, wants to know who Glenn is. He knows she's lying to him, but he doesn't know if it's because it's somebody. Is she lying because she said she's only had sex inside of relationships? If that's not true, or is she currently in a relationship with this guy now? So either way, he's like, I'm getting to the bottom of this shit. That's the reason I was like, there's no purpose in her lying. You know, the level of security, background information that they can get, you might as well have just said this is who it was, because now it does look fishy. And I can't. We switch back to Mia. It's late. She's had lunch and dinner, and Colin still hasn't gotten there. She's about to drift off to sleep when he comes in with 2 flutes of champagne. Um, she looks at him. He can see the guilt. She knows she can't. She couldn't hide that face that she gave him. Um, she doesn't admit that she was in a relationship with him. She just admits that she hates him. Of course, he's like, that's a pretty damn strong word for someone that you just shared classes with. So of course, it's already, he's already got his hands on her pussy. He's, she's wet, she's creaming, all these things. And he's like, the hating part, when she said that, he's like, that's not what I asked you. He's like, I want to know why you're creaming. Are you creaming for me? Are you creaming for him? She's like, for you, she yells out. So then he's like, open your eyes, look at me, stop hiding from me. Um, he calls her love. And she, of course, is like, he clearly is just saying stuff because there's no way he would mean that. So I just, again, the self hate is so awful. I hate it. But unfortunately, people really do have these issues, you know? And of course, in her mind, he can never mean that to someone like her. Um, she's put on her frumpy clothes. She had gotten her original clothes and had on flannel pajamas. And he's like, where did you get these? You know? And she's like, I got my stuff back. So then he starts eating her pussy and he gets a phone call and it's Trent, his second in command. And he's fingering her at the same time listening to the conversation. And then his touch changes. He's getting upset. He's not hurting her, but he is getting a little rougher. So he says while he's on the phone, how long? So then he hangs up, gets up, puts his clothes on, walks out. But before he walks out, he says, what's your excuse this time? She unleashes. She says, because I was embarrassed. He who I can't talk. He humiliated me. He wouldn't take me to the interview that was the last in my field. He refused to do it, and so I had to come across the street to your company, dumb down my resume, and get a job because he left me and I was about to lose my apartment and I needed a job. And so yeah, I didn't want to talk about someone who humiliated me so bad. And she said, especially when you don't really even find me attractive. This is all a joke for you. And he, of course, takes his clothes off, rips off her flannel, and they have this nice hard fuck. And then when he's done, he gets up and tells her, you don't leave until I'm through with you. Now, this is fucked up because she revealed a lot in what she said. Now, I'm still mad at her for not just telling him what it was. You didn't have to go into great detail. But at least it meant that's a former boyfriend. You could have left it at that. If he kept pressing, when you give me more information, I give you more information. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. But now she's told you the embarrassment that this person inflicted on her, and you should have understood. Now I'm like, okay, now you understood why she didn't say it. And then you kind of just treat her like she's shit. So now you tell her that you're not going to leave until I'm through with you. So I'm going to treat you like you're a piece of shit too. That's where I'm like, come on, bruh. That's foul. Because it's not like you don't know. You know that clearly there's a self-esteem issue. And yeah, you just fucked her, but I mean, okay, she could just have good pussy. You know what I mean? Who knows? But you do her like that, and it's like, I don't know, that just made me, I didn't like him for that. I'm like, you could have found a better way to say something to her, even if it was, do you think I'm attracted now? I mean, it could have been that, you know what I'm saying? But to just not acknowledge anything that she said and just say, you're not leaving until I'm through with you, so I'm a thing. Kind of the wrong time to do that, that's all I'm saying. We switch back to Colin. Basically, we're getting everything from his perspective. So basically, everything ran with Omar late. That's why he didn't get to the room until almost midnight. The phone call that he got from Trent um, was him saying, you know, Trent's like, do you want to get rid of her now? She lied before, she's lying again, you know? So, but his plan now is to keep her in this room so he can keep an eye on her and to get the truth out of her one way or another, as well as have pleasure with her. So that's his whole plan. So for the next couple of days, Mia doesn't hear from Colin. She's confined to the suite. She can roam for a period of time, but then after a certain time, she has to come and stay in her bedroom. Um, they're supposed to leave today. They're waiting and waiting and waiting. Trent's with her. Trent gets a call. They're not leaving. And he says, we're staying. So she knows something's going on, but she doesn't know exactly what's going on. And she does know if Colin's there, then she wants to be there as well. So Trent, of course, tells her basically the option is like, you can quit and we'll pay for your travel to go home. But she wasn't ready to quit, that was an option. But I'm like, at least there was an out given to her. I mean, it should have been earlier, I feel. But I'm like, okay, at least they give out. There's a lot of fucked up shit in this book. And I don't want you all to think I'm making excuses for it. Because it's some fucked up shit. Some of this stuff is fucked up, okay? But there was an out given. And she chose not to take that out. Because she wants to be with him. She likes the pleasure that he gives her. I mean, especially, listen, when you get an actual good lover, you don't necessarily want to let it go, because it's like, what else can I experience with this person? But when they like, you like, all right, you go. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't really matter. But when a person has an actual effect on your body, it's a totally different ball game. So that girl is like, I am not ready for him to be done with my body. She doesn't hear anything from him for like the first few nights, and then one night she decides she's just gonna go naked. She doesn't want to have to put on all these clothes. She damn sure doesn't want to put on any sexual lingerie because there's no one's gonna see it. And so she goes to bed, and then she hears footsteps, and he's coming to her door, not to his. She's not asleep. He can tell because he tells her, he says, you make little sounds when you're asleep. So either this room is bugged or his ass has been coming in this room listening to her sleep. Either way, it's creepy. I don't really find that romantic. That's just fucking creepy. So then she says he takes the covers off of her, sees she's naked, and she tells him, I want you to cure me. Like, I want to be cured. And I was like, I kind of like, what does she mean by that? So he tells her, 8 a.m. tomorrow, wear the black corset and heels and come to my door. So the next morning she does just that. He's got all the toys spread out. They go at it. He puts a dildo in her puss, makes her suck him off. He doesn't finish. She's thinking she's just having an overload. I'm sorry, not overlord. Overload with her senses. And she wants to be desensitized. So when she says, I want you to cure me, she wants him to make her not feel anymore. I'm like, fuck, that's sad as shit. But it's like she's been hurt so much, she wants to be able to not feel. Now, he's clearly like a dominant. And I know I've read a few books where there's that dynamic of a dominant and a submissive. And one of the things I remember in one of those books, I can't remember which one, the reason she liked being a submissive, the character, because it allowed her mind to be free. She didn't have to think. Someone could think for her, and it was a safe space for her to where it gave her that place to zone out. And so I think for her, she concentrates on, the overload of the senses, clamps on your titties and dildos up your puss and all kind of stuff, like there's an overload, a lot of shit's going on. It helps her to not think, to not feel. And she wants to become numb. And I'm like, see, this is why people be getting on drugs and stuff so they don't want to feel. That's a dangerous fucking place you want to go to when you don't want to feel, you know? But I feel bad for her because that's where she is. She keeps experiencing pain and she wants to find a way to numb it. I just feel bad for her because she seems like a good person, but unfortunately, good people have fucked up people in their lives and it fucks them up. I feel so bad for her. We switch back to Colin. He's in a meeting with Omar. Mikhail is a Russian operative that's on his team. And Mikhail's like, listen, this is Russian architecture. And that changes how they're going to be able to protect Omar. And so some changes and things like that have got to go on. And he needs for Omar to trust him. He doesn't know if Omar, like, if something's going on with Omar, if he's trustworthy, but he needs to try and get him to trust him because he needs to find out what's fully going on with this. Like, he needs the whole picture. Like, he's got a portion of it, but he needs the whole picture. Mikhail, being that he's Russian, he's going to look into it. And when he leaves, he says some joking shit to him, and they're joking about his ass and stuff like that. This is not normal banter that they have with their boss. But they've noticed how crazy he is about Mia, of him. Like, he used to be all about work, and now he's like antsy, like trying to get up out of here. So they're giving him shit. So he runs upstairs. So he gets to the room. Mia's waiting on, in position. She's on her knees, hands on her thighs. She's waiting for him. He tells her to stand up. He tells her, grab your ankles. And he says, when your pussy drips to the floor, that's when I'm going to slam into you and make you squirt. And that's exactly what happened. So then they have a nice hard fuck. And he's like, you just earned yourself a new toy. We switch back to Mia. We find out that this has been their play for like the last 7 days. It's just been nonstop pleasure. She's still analyzing stuff. She tries not to. She just wants to submit herself to the pleasure. He winds up using some anal balls. And then fucks her in the cooch at the same time. It's a lot. She's got clamps on. It's a lot of shit going on. And apparently earlier that day he had something on her similar to a chastity belt, and it made her clit swollen, so she's like highly sensitive down there. So each night they're like having nice hard fucks. And the last couple of nights he's held her in bed. And then this night he says to her, please don't cry, love. And he said it like twice to her. So we fast forward. It's now been 4 weeks that they've been in Dubai. And on this morning, their alarm goes off, and it's like an hour earlier than normal. And he tells her, he's not going to be able to come back for lunch, and he wants her to come with him. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, she is supposed to be your executive assistant. You done had this girl locked away for 4 weeks just for fucking. That's insane. So, she, of course, every time he says love to her, love, will you come over, that type of thing, she tenses up because she's like, there's no way in hell he would ever fall for me. It's not possible. He, of course, is like, why are you tensing up? And she says, because you're not inside me. So then they go in the shower, have a nice hard fuck. He tells her you can't wear heels because it's a facility tour. Wear flats. She's like, cool, no problem. She, of course, is wondering, is he starting to trust me? He's probably never going to trust me, and he damn sure is never going to love me. That's sad, but, I mean, it is what it is. They go on the tour. It's extremely hot. I mean, this is the fucking desert. She's feeling sick, like she's about to pass out. So he gives her some water, but he tells her drink it slow. She tries to, but it's still a problem. Then all of a sudden, boom, there's an explosion. She's being pulled back from wreckage. She wakes up. She's in a room. Seems like some type of basement. There's physicians and nurses around her. She feels blood between her legs, and the nurse says something about the baby. And she's looking like the baby. She didn't even know she was pregnant. She sees Trent and Colin talking. Colin looks furious, and the way he looks at her, it's cold, no feeling. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's going to think I lied. I really didn't know, but she can't talk. She's trying to talk. And she hears telling Trent, you got to get her back stateside. Um, you got to get her out of here. And then she's thinking like, oh my gosh, she can't even stand to look at me, you know, and she, all of a sudden, everything goes to black. She passes out. We switch back to Colin and we find out he was damn near dead when he tried to pull Mia out. He passed out. He woke up freaking out. They had to sedate his ass to put him back to sleep. He wakes up. He's still asking about Mia. Where is she? The doctor, he tried to strangle the doctor. He's all over the place. Trent had to subdue him. When he found out that Mia lost the baby, he didn't know she was pregnant. He doesn't believe she knew either. But he's like, now it makes sense. She's been feeling bad in the morning. She's been crying and stuff like that and having sickness. And he didn't think. So the first night he was there, he fucked her raw. And I mean, that's all it takes. But now it's starting to make sense. And he's devastated about, her losing a child. He told the doctor, about not, he basically he lied. He told the doctor that was his wife, and like if he could let him tell her. And so the doctor was believing that he was the husband. So when the doctor walks off, Trent's like, you didn't marry her. He's like, I know, but if I didn't, they wouldn't listen to anything I said. So he goes to her. She's beyond pale. She looks so awful. He's terrified. She's going in and out. And he wasn't able to, he leaves out. And one of the nurses didn't know about not telling her about the baby. So when he sees her face, he's upset with the nurse, not her. But what she thought is he was looking at her. So all we find out is just fucking, it's all the pieces for the worst misunderstanding ever, you know? And she, of course, she's got piss poor thoughts of herself. And so she's thinking, oh my gosh, she hates me and all this type of stuff. And it's nothing like that. Nowhere near that. So he's telling Trent, you got to get her out of here. You got to get her back stateside. You're going to stay with her. You have detail on her, X, Y, and Z. Trent didn't want to leave him, but he's like, I don't know. She's the priority. So he is in love with Mia. He had bought a ring for her. It is actually in the safe in the suite that he had planned on giving to her because he wanted her to know before they went back that he wanted to be with her. This is why if you want somebody, just fucking say it. Because you never freaking know. Because look at what's done happened. They woke up, they were in bliss, beautiful morning sex, the best, okay? And that would have been a perfect opportunity to tell her how you felt. And instead, she doesn't know that at all. That you feel this way towards her. And now look at what's happened. And now it's just all fucked up. So when he saw Mia, he's made a comment about not again. So I'm assuming somebody else he's loved before, they probably had a horrible demise. Especially in this line of work. I mean, you talking military shit overseas. Let's just be honest. That does not seem very safe. I'm just saying. So Trent's gonna leave with Mia on the medvac back to the States. he's got something. He's got a backpack. He's just pretty much like, God help whoever did this, because he doesn't care if it's one of his clients. He doesn't care if it's a political person. Whoever the hell planted that bomb, he is going to rain down hellfire on him. And that is how it ends. So next week we're going to dive into the second and final book of the Duet series, and it's called Her Heart. When I tell you this book, I liked it. The only part, again, that was really hard for me was the self-loathing that she had for herself. And this is why you genuinely have to love yourself, because if you allow people to treat you like shit over and over again, you take that shit in. You really do. And if your opinion isn't the greatest of yourself, you form an even lower opinion of yourself. And I felt so bad for her throughout the book. But at the same time, she was making stupid mistakes. She should have just said who the fuck Glenn was. Even if that's an ex-boyfriend. I don't want to talk about it. You want more information? You tell me something about you. Just leave it at that. But at least that way you weren't lying. But when you already know you're on thin ice with a person, you know what I'm saying? And then you keep lying, it's like no one trusts you anymore. Now, thankfully, I just hate she had to expose, you know, such raw hurt that the Glenn guy did to her. But it's like she had to expose that for him to probably kind of still believe her. I don't know. It just that part of it just sucks. But we're gonna see how this wraps up. I just want her to get some confidence. That is what I care about. What did you all think? Let me know. Drop down in the comment section below. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and those links are going to be available down in the description section below. I can't talk today. I really do appreciate you all for listening to my videos. I appreciate your support. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you share. As always, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.